You never know where our conversations will take us. I've had conversations with folks at the bar in Nashville, or maybe a private bathroom in Nashville. Sometimes they're in their car. But no matter what, we have some really good conversations here on Bar Conversations. And our next guest, he's a country singer-songwriter, and his debut album, Keepin On, arrives September 4th. Let's welcome in Dan Alley.
Hello, good to be here. Thanks for having me. Sorry, I'm headed downtown right now to
Absolutely.
try to go write another song. So I got to do what you got to do.
Understandable, and I'm excited to talk to you about that because one, like I said, you're a songwriter, you're also a singer, you got a lot going on. This is Bar Conversations. I know you behave yourself these days. Congratulations on that. I also know where you're from, and they've got a unique story. So I was trying to find a pairing that would work for me at least. That's a little Old Elk 10-year. They were out in Colorado for a long time. Now they're back in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. And I know your journey has taken you a few different places as well. So what's your go-to drink these days? Is it the coffee bar, tea bar? What are you up to these days?
Man, I'm a soda water with a squirt of lime and black coffee. And that's about all. That's about all the crazier I get nowadays. I quit
Now you
drinking.
don't get all
Quit
the
drinking back in.
fancy Starbucks drinks.
And now and then, when I'm going through the drive-through with my wife and she gets something that sounds fun, I'll be like, all right, let's just do two of those.
I like it. Well, hey, nothing wrong with behaving. Now, hear you're also a girl dad. I am a girl dad as well. I know you got a couple kids. How's that life treating you? Kids keeping you busy? And what's it like being a girl dad?
It's the greatest thing in the world, man. I just I became a lot softer when my girl was born, and just kind of navigating the emotions of a 3 almost 4 year old girl these days. So it's up and down and all over the place, but she keeps me on my toes, and it's just amazing. I'm learning all about princesses and makeup and all that good stuff. So you know, if my girl is holding an Elsa wand and she tells me to freeze, that's what I do. That's kind of that's the life I'm living these days.
No, I totally get it, and I've got a 7 going on 8-year-old daughter, and just wait till they get into dance and gymnastics, and you get to learn all about that too.
I can't wait. Cannot wait. My daughter Daisy, she just started t-ball, so we've had a couple t-ball practices over the past couple weeks, and uh, it is absolutely hilarious and awesome at the same time.
Oh, I can only imagine. My daughter played soccer for a little while, and I joked. I said that was a great entertainment for an hour on Saturdays as they all chased the ball around the field.
Yeah, yeah. Just sit back and watch the chaos unfold.
Now, in addition to being able to watch your kids, have a little bit of fun. I know you're able to get out a little bit. I saw you've been doing a little golf lately. I saw that. Looks like a pretty solid golf swing. Is that what you get to do during your downtime? Do you get much downtime these days? What do you do to relax?
Um, I mean, golf is definitely up there as one of my favorite things to do, other than music. I've played golf since I was maybe 10 or 11 years old or something. My dad kind of got me into it, and yeah, I'm thankful for that because it is. If I just have too many crazy weeks in a row, I'm like, I gotta get out of here. And I love playing golf by myself or with friends, kind of any version of it. Yeah, I get to go a couple times a month, and we'll never take that for granted. Being able to kind of play decent enough to want to go out there and, and play as much as I can. It's so much fun.
Well, now I was gonna say, is it truly relaxing as someone that also golfs? I know sometimes when I go out, I might be a little frustrated with myself in my game. Is it relaxing no matter what? How you're playing, how you're swinging?
It has it's like a roller coaster of emotions, kind of. you can have a good hole and be like, this is the best sport in the world. I want to do this every day. And then, yeah, for sure, like you said, the next hole you can just be regretting every decision you've ever made.
I feel like golf's one of those fun ones. I joke it's a 4-letter word for a reason.
That is great. I have never heard that. That's perfect.
Now, now, as I mentioned, I paired a drink that managed to move itself over to Ohio. You're from Ohio, from Miamisburg, which is kind of between Cincinnati and Dayton. What was it like growing
Yep.
up there? I mean, how did that impact your life?
I mean, it was great growing up there. It was kind of a small-ish town. It was kind of a small to medium-sized town, I'll say. And yeah, I think there's a lot of music up there. There's a lot of country music roots, and my family is deeply embedded in that, and bluegrass and stuff. So there's always, you know, somewhere to play some music. It's up there. I mean, there's always a bluegrass festival going on, or some kind of live music in a bar somewhere. So it wasn't too hard for me to get into music up there. I worked for the city of Dayton, Ohio, like right out of high school, and did that for a couple years, and all the while, playing a bunch of bars around that scene, and obviously my my heart led me more towards that world than working at the city. It was a great job to have as a 20-year-old kid out of high school, but luckily my parents sat me down and said, "Man, if you want to chase this music thing and go give Nashville a try for a little while, you know, quit your job and get down there." And that's all I needed. I was out the door, and I was in Nashville the following week. So
I was gonna say, mate, it seems like it's been the right choice for you. And you talk about you come from a line of musicians. Is it true you grew up playing bluegrass and country in a family band as well? Like, I mean, with your siblings and parents?
yeah, not my whole life. There's some guys that have done that since they were 4 years old, and were given a mandolin or a banjo before they could walk. That wasn't me, not like that. Um, but in high school, my sister started playing a lot of mandolin, and I started playing, kind of taking guitar more seriously. And my dad has always sang, and my mom's a wonderful singer. We kind of just all got together in the living room one night and learned a couple, Dailey and Vincent tunes, and Larry Sparks and Ralph Stanley and all that kind of stuff. We just kind of started singing together. And my parents had the idea to record an album, so we recorded an Alley Family bluegrass gospel album, and I forget, it was some little studio up in like Huber Heights, Ohio, and we did about 10 songs, just cover songs of old bluegrass gospel songs, and put that out, or whatever, however you would call it. Started giving those CDs away, and played in some churches and some festivals for a couple of years, a couple summers. And yeah, it was really fun, and that's definitely what got the ball rolling of me wanting to have some kind of career in music. Just the thrill of playing in front of people and kind of building a stage presence. That's what started it all.
Now, is it also true that because of being surrounded by all that music, that you even picked? Now, you weren't handed the mandolin at like 4, but you did pick up the guitar still at a decent age, maybe younger than most.
Yeah, I think there was always guitars around. My dad was kind of a rocker in my early childhood years. He introduced me to like Metallica and Alice in Chains, and um, you know Godsmack, Pantera, like some really really rocking stuff, and I still love that to this day. If I'm feeling kind of stumped in my musical inspirations, I'll turn on some Lane Staley or some Metallica or something and try to spark something different. But anyways, yeah. So my dad was always kind of jamming on a guitar, and finally when I was about 9 or 10, I said, "Hey, will you teach me something? Teach me a chord or something." He never forced it on me, which um, think is something that I carry on to my kids. I'm like, there will be guitars around always. There will be music being played and songs being written, but I'm never gonna make them do it, because I think that's how I started. I just kind of watched my dad do it, and I wanted to do that too. So I said, teach me a chord or two, and he did, and it was terrible. And I probably put the guitar down and didn't play again for 2 weeks, and then I'd pick it up and be like, all right, let me try again. And, it was on and off from like 9 to 16. And then, around 15 or 16, I was like, okay, I actually want to like get good at this thing.
Well, and it seems like you've stuck with it. And you mentioned, your dad loving the rock. You grew up around country, bluegrass, gospel. So what music, though, when you got to be in charge of either picking it or listening to it, did you gravitate towards, you grow up with, and have an impact on you still to this day?
You mean like what music did I kind of organically like find myself,
Yeah,
other than
like being able to
what my
listen
parents were
to
listening to?
and things like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was it was early 2000s country that I think I was just hearing on the radio a lot. Tim McGraw and like early Aldean and Kenny Chesney and Rascal Flatts and stuff like that. I was hearing, and I was like, this stuff is, you know, just really fun to listen to, and it's got meaning, and it's got heart to it. And then I started diving deeper into country, like older country. My mom was definitely more of the older country and bluegrass influence on me and my sisters. But I think, yeah, at that point I was like, okay, well, let's go back a decade. So I started getting into Alan Jackson and Clint Black and Travis Tritt, and then past that I was like, okay, well, I just couldn't stop, man. It was like, okay, well, now there's Keith Whitley, and now I'm finding Bert Gostin and Hank Jr. and Merle Haggard. So yeah, it was just several years of just drowning myself in country music, and just falling more and more in love with it until I really got into writing my own songs. And I think I'm so thankful for that time that I had, at that young age, to really learn how to create a song.
Well, and you talked about being able to kind of naturally get into music. Like you said, you picked up the guitar naturally because you saw your dad doing it, and you just were like, I want to learn. You slowly got better at it, stuck with it, did the thing with the family. And then at 18, you're out kind of on your own in a sense. You're working that full-time job after high school, but also playing gigs at the local bars. What was it like during that time? What did you learn from that time that you still kind of take with you to this day?
I think I learned that every gig counts. Every dollar you make counts in this business. Every song you write counts, because there's still people that like and comment on my posts and listen to my songs when I put them out, that I met at some of those first gigs when I was 19, 20, up in Ohio, playing to 14 people in a bar. Well, if one of those people follows you for the next 10, 20, 30 years, then you just can't replace that. And I think, yeah, that started the work ethic behind being in the music business, of just what it takes to build a following, whether if that's to be an artist or to be a songwriter, and just have people that are fans of your songs, whatever that looks like. Just everything, every little bit counts.
Absolutely. If someone takes the time to like you, that means something. They probably have told someone else about you, and you never know how long that chain reaction can go. And you talked about this a little bit ago,
Totally.
that your parents, you had a good job out of high school working for the city, but at the end of the day, that's not where your heart was. Was there a aha moment, like a light bulb moment? I know your parents said, "Hey, go for it," but was there a moment for you that you were like,
Yeah,
"I got to get to Nashville," and what was that guiding light for you?
yeah. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, I know what the 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 chain of events that happened to get me down here, but I'm trying to think of like in my mind. So I tried out for The Voice a couple times. Funny enough, one time in Nashville, one time in St. Louis. I might have been like 18, like somewhere in that time where I was gigging. I was like, I think I'm an all right singer, and like this is what people do. Might as well. I'd never been to Nashville, so I didn't know anything about like a day job as a songwriter or like playing on Broadway. I didn't know anything about that. So my only kind of exposure to getting in the music business was these TV shows. So I tried out for The Voice, and I made it through like the very two first rounds of like with all of the behind the scenes people, judges and stuff. You know, never got like onto the show, but so that was my first taste of like, okay, maybe I'm like a decent singer. I got through a couple rounds. I didn't win the show. I wasn't even on the show. But I was like, I made it through one round, and I beat out like whatever the 10 or 12 other people in the room. So I was like, okay, I got a little bit of singing thing going on. And then I was posting a bunch of original songs on Facebook, and so I was writing a few songs here and there at that point, and they were getting some good traction for nobody in Langersburg, Ohio. You know, they were getting a lot of likes, shares, and stuff, and I was like, people are liking these songs I'm writing. Maybe I should, do something about this. And then obviously I was gigging at the time, and I started making more money gigging than I was on my paychecks from work, and all of this was leading up to just needing a sign from God to just take the leap, drive down to Nashville, and see what happens for a few days. And I got that when a guy named John Northrup reached out to me on Facebook, and he said, "Hey kid, I like what you're doing. If you're ever in Nashville, let me know. I'll hook you up with a co-write." And that's kind of when I went to my parents, and I was like, I think I want to quit my job. Like I just got my sign to go to Nashville, and they were just so supportive, right on board with it, and that was kind of my moment of being, all right, I'm going to take my whatever I had in savings, $2,000 or something, to go down there and pay for a week or two worth of hotels, and just figure it out. And that's exactly what I did. I quit the job on a Friday. I was in Nashville on Monday, and staying at the Comfort Inn on Munbury over there across from Tin Roof. Just figuring it out. The prices of hotel rooms were going up every day I was there.
Well, it seems to have worked out pretty good for you, as you know things have kind of come. You know the leap was worth it, and now you're a songwriter that's kind of your true day job. You do the singing as well, beginning to do more of that.
Yeah.
What is it like? Because like you said, you didn't realize that there was the songwriting, things like that. Now people hear that, they might think it's all glamorous and all that, but what is a typical day in the life of a Nashville songwriter look like for you?
Well, we usually start at 11 a.m., so that's a plus, um, especially with young kids. You get my day looks like getting woke up at 7:30 if we're lucky, and rolling out of bed and chasing them around the house for a little while and making some breakfast, sitting there and watching cartoons or playing, just playing in the living room floor for a few hours in the morning, and not having to leave the house till 10 o'clock. It's incredible. It's something that I like. I feel like I do take for granted sometimes because of just how normal it feels now. But yeah, it's amazing that that's what my days look like. And just hanging out with family for a few hours in the morning, and then going into town like I am right now to go walk in a publishing office at 11, sit down and kick a few ideas around with friends, and see if we can come up with something, and usually, punch out of there 4:30, and and then text each other on the way home and be like, hey, you think this is good? Who should we send this thing to? Who should we try to pitch this to? And then go home, have dinner, put the kids to bed, start it all over the next day. That's really what all of my days look like now, and it's just the greatest thing in the world. And that's why I've ventured more away from the full time grind of the artist thing, and just really settled into the songwriter life of wanting to be the guy in the crowd listening to somebody sing a song I wrote, more than wanting to be on stage and what all that comes with. Because I like the songwriter schedule a lot more.
I can understand that for sure. And along the way, I feel like you've gotten to write with some legends and inspirations as well. I think I saw Brent Cobb, Dillon, many others. What's it been like working with those folks, collaborating, and what have you been able to take away from those moments?
Everything in the world, everything that I use on a day-to-day basis in Nashville is what I've taken away from writes with guys like that. I mean, I've had the opportunity to write with dozens of just legends at this point, and it's never lost on me that I don't belong in a lot of those rooms, and especially, I'm gonna say years ago, I didn't belong in those rooms. I think I've said before, I think I said like 2 words in my first co-write, and it was with Doug Johnson. I mean, like, one of the most prolific songwriters in Nashville. He was my first co-write in town because of that connection I had when I first came here, and I just sat back and watched them write songs pretty much, and they were gracious enough to let me learn and be in that school. And I think still to this day, I get to write with Casey Beathard a lot, and Neil Medley, and just a bunch of people that I really look up to and learn a lot from, and that kind of goes back to what I learned about what I want to do for the rest of my life is watching guys like that have made a career out of songwriting. That's another big thing that I take from those writes.
Well, and you've had some success along the way too. You've had, cuts with Lainey Wilson, Jon Pardi. You recently earned your second chart topper with Hudson Westbrook's "House Again," following Luke Bryan's country song "Came On." You're a writer on Luke Combs' single "Be By You." I mean, did you ever expect that when that first co-write, you were quiet, to now having cuts by some pretty impressive folks and some of them that have hit the top of the charts?
Yeah, I think I did expect it, to be honest. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but you kind of have to expect that when you're moving down here. You're like, you don't move down here expecting to fail and expecting for it to never work. You move down here with a insane dream and like way too much confidence in yourself, and you move down and you're like, oh, I'm going to be, a hit songwriter next year or tomorrow. And then you quickly find out that there's so much more of a grind to it, and it takes a lot longer than that. But to be here now and looking back, truth is, if you told me all this was going on 5 years ago, I would freak out. But yeah, it did kind of in the back of my mind. I was like, I know this is going to work one of these days. I just got to keep doing it. Just be consistent and like the definition of insanity, keep doing something over and over and over, even if it's not working. It just might.
I was gonna say it just might, and it seems to be going well for you. And I'm always curious about this because a lot of folks that I talk with, they write their own songs and things like that. But like for you, you are writing for others. Now we'll get into you're doing some of that singing now. But I mean, is there a particular song that you wrote that you're just most proud of that someone else has cut?
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind is a song called "He Went to Work." Jon Pardi recorded it, put it out on his album beginning of last year, Honky Tonk Hollywood record. Um, I wrote that song with Neil Medley and Brandon Kinney, and we kind of wrote it with our dads in mind and just how hard they worked growing up. And we kind of wanted to have a song that just encompasses that dad that just gets up and goes to work every day and is going to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And I think we wrote that song and we were all really happy with it. And then just to have a guy like Jon Pardi record it and put it on a record, it was just the cherry on top. And that will always be one that I'm super proud of. And hence the reason that I did record that one and put it on my record that's coming out soon. Yeah, it's always one that I felt like I really, really was proud of.
Well, and speaking of that record, Keepin On comes out this September on the 4th. Um, it's been described as a project you've wanted to make since moving to Nashville, but I know you're enjoying that songwriter lifestyle of a little bit of slow motion mornings. Why was now the right time to do your own project of your songs that you're singing?
I think there's a little bit of striking while the iron's hot kind of mentality behind it. Having the most that's ever been happening in my songwriting career is right now, and I have a lot of songs that I'm super proud of, but haven't been heard. Other than ones like He Went to Work that have been recorded, but the rest of them are just ones that I'm like, I just don't want these to sit on my phone for the rest of forever. I want them to be heard, whether that's by bigger artists that will eventually, hopefully, record some of them, or if it's my wife and kids and family members that sit around and listen to it, and friends. Either way, it's a success, and I think right now just felt like a good time to kind of offload some songs that I've been carrying around in my pocket for the past 8 years and move on to the next batch.
Well, and you talk about, you got the co-write that, Party picked up, but you also solo wrote 5 tracks on the new album. Why was it important to kind of have some of those there as well and just have your voice shining through on everything?
Yeah, I love writing by myself, man. I have always done that and will always do that. I think that's how I started. That's how everybody starts. Um, as far as I know, you kind of start sitting in your bedroom as a kid, or whether it's sitting on a job site in a work truck and just writing by yourself. And I think if you can write a song by yourself, record it, put it out, and somebody listens to it and enjoys it, that's like got to be one of the greatest feeling as a songwriter, because there's just, like you said, unfiltered, and it's kind of a validating feeling of like, oh, I can do this. I'm not just always having to lean on a co-writer to finish a song, which is, don't get me wrong, the vast majority of what I do is co-writing, and 98% of the songs I write are with other insanely talented writers, and I will, never not do that. But there is a little bit of, yeah, just self-satisfaction of okay, I can write a song by myself, and like it's not absolutely terrible. I think I'll always chase that feeling.
Well, and the title track, "Keepin' On," which I think when you wrote it, you even said this will one day be my album title, was written earlier in your career. How did that specific song change your outlook on songwriting, and how did it end up being, kind of maybe what you knew was going to eventually be your album title?
Yeah, it was. It's a very real song. At that moment in my life, I was just kind of. I'll say it changed my outlook on writing, because I was literally just writing what was going on immediately around me. I just looked around and I said, when the lights came on this morning, I bought myself another month. And that was true. That's because I really woke up that day and was like so broke I couldn't believe that I was actually managing to pay bills. keep the lights on in this little house in Donaldson. And yeah, it just blew my mind. I was like, I'm still down here doing this thing. This, like, and I just kind of wanted to write something that was like kind of a timestamp on that exact moment in my life. And when I finished that song, I just took a step back and said, I want to write a lot more songs just like that one. And so yeah, that's kind of how it changed everything, and wound up being the title track, because I knew it meant a lot, and it said a lot, and a lot of people could relate to it. So I wanted to keep that one alive for as long as I can.
Well, and on this album, it touches on a lot of very personal themes as well. It mentioned, you got sober, you're a dad, you're a husband. Was it difficult being that vulnerable in your writing, or was it just a natural outlet for you?
Pretty natural. I love writing about stuff that's real and what's really going on, because you don't really get the chance to majority of the time. I think as a full-time lunch pail songwriter, you're like, I'm trying to get these things on the radio most of the time, because I got to provide for my family, and I got to keep this thing going and do this for the rest of my life. So I want to write some commercial stuff and some stuff that makes you want to, party and have a beer on a Friday night, and not always dig so deep and write these prolific, personal songs. You can't do that every day. So I think every chance I do get to do that, it doesn't, it's not difficult at all. It's kind of like, finally I get to write something, that is about me or personal. And yeah.
Well, and you got some pretty special songs on the album as well. I know you got a few songs for the family, and that were either about the kids or the wife. I mean, what do you hope your kids take away from the songs when they listen to them years from now? Because there is some cool stuff about family life on there.
Yeah, I hope they kind of take away that how conscious I was at this time and when they were this young, and um, how much I was just doing everything I could to be present, and same with my wife. And just, I hope that they, if I was 25 listening to a record that my dad made when I was 3, I think that would be so cool, like just hearing kind of what was going on in his life at that time. And so, yeah, it might sound crazy to look that far ahead, but in 2-3 decades from now, when my kids are grown and they have this thing to listen to and kind of feel nostalgic about their childhood, I think that's the coolest thing ever. So if literally nothing else other than that with this record happens, then I'm totally fine with that.
Well, I think they're in for a treat when they do get to listen to it. One of the songs that I really thought was pretty cool was the collaboration with Mae Estes on A Whole Nother High. What was it like working with her on that song, and how did that come to be?
It was so cool. I mean, she is one of the greatest singers in Nashville right now, like just really doing the thing, and she's such an incredible artist, and I'm lucky enough to be friends with her and co-write with her, and we wrote that Whole Nother High as like a full-on duet, and it was one of the first full-on duets I've ever written, of just like the literal call and answer verses back and forth. And so it was really fun to kind of work that muscle that I don't usually use at all. And just hearing her sing is amazing. So we sang that thing a bunch of times in the room that day we wrote it. And I was like, kind of in the back of my mind, like, I don't know who else is going to be able to do this thing. I don't know if we're going to pitch this or if Mae's going to cut it and get another guy to be the male on the cut. Or we didn't really have a plan for it at all. We maybe texted about it a couple days later, and we're like, who should we pitch this to, or what should we do with this thing? But we didn't really ever come up with an answer. So Did want there to be some kind of duet on this album, and there wasn't any other song or artist that came to mind. It was just straight to Mae and that song, and I was like, I reached out, and she was all for it, and we went in the studio over there at Sony, and she stepped in the vocal booth and sang it down one time, maybe twice, maybe like sang it like 1.5 times, and we were like, all right, that's good. What's for lunch? Like we're done here.
It's amazing how some of those things come to be. And you were able to also work with Lukas Scott for this producer for this project. How did he help you capture that sound you were looking for, and kind of guide you on to create and keeping on?
Yeah, we talked about it for a long time before actually getting into the studio. So we had a really solid idea of exactly what we were going to do. He had a lot of great input on players and um, just direction for this thing and how basic and acoustic we wanted it to be, because I didn't want full on radio studio versions of these songs. I kind of wanted to be like almost glorified work tapes. And so we went in. It was me playing guitar, Sam Banks playing guitar, and Johnny Fung, who was a really great utility guy, played all the other stuff, mandolin and dobro and keys and steel and stuff like that. Mostly just acoustic sounding stuff, and Lukas was turning the knobs, man, and just making the magic, telling us when to zig and zag, and he's just really great at that, at being a leader in the studio and kind of knowing where a song is headed. And then we knocked all that out in 2 days, I think. Knocked all the tracking out, and then a couple weeks later, I went to Lukas's house and did all the vocals. And after that, he took those songs and just transformed them into just really vibey stuff and cool sounds that he added after the fact. And yeah, I left a lot of it in his hands because I'm no producer at all. And yeah, he knows what he's doing. So he took those songs and made them what they are, and here we are.
Well, and you're pretty good at what you do though, and that is the songwriting and the singing. And I gotta ask, do you prefer being a songwriter, or do you prefer being out on stage singing the songs? Now that you're kind of getting a little bit of both.
Yeah, I 100% prefer being a songwriter, and that was something that I learned about myself as the years went on. Uh, I moved to town. I think a lot of anybody that sings, plays guitar, and writes songs, I think you move to town to become famous and be in the spotlight and have a tour bus and be doing the whole thing. And that's kind of what I thought for maybe a year or so, and then started getting more engulfed in the writing world in Nashville, and just like I've said before, just meeting these older guys that have done it, have made entire careers out of writing songs, and there's a whole different lifestyle that comes with being an artist, and I'm just not ready for that life right now, and just really enjoying the thrill of like hearing a cut, somebody, Luke Bryan sings your song, and you that first click on that song to hear it for the first time is just like, I would take that over being on any stage. It's insane, like how much my mind has flipped, and I'm not mad about it. I love what's going on, and I love still having the ability to record some songs and put them out if I want to.
Well, and you're getting to do that with keeping on, and I'm always curious about this, and I'm especially curious with you because I know, like you said, you much kind of prefer to be behind the scenes and writing the songs. So with that in mind, though, what is your favorite song of yours that you've got on the new album or that you've recorded to perform live?
Probably High and Dry right now. I think that's just such a unique song for me. It's not like I don't write a whole lot of stuff like that, and kind of dark and like eerie sounding, but kind of silly at the same time. Honestly, like the lyric behind the song is so it's cool. The few songwriter shows that I have gotten to play, and I play that song, and I'm like, I quit drinking a couple years ago, but I wrote this song while I was smoking a joint. So here's high and dry, and it almost always gets a laugh in the crowd, and then they hear it kind of starts, and it's kind of like dark and serious sounding, and then the second verse says like something about wake and bake and make some bacon, and, and it's like I want to laugh while I'm singing it, but I'm also like in this kind of moody song. So it's just unique. I think that's one of my favorites to play out and watch people hear for the first time.
I like it. I like it. Now, because of the songs that you have written and have been cut by others, I'm very curious about this as well. Is there a song that you've written that others have recorded that you just love to also sometimes jam out onto on stage?
Yeah, I think probably be House Again. Like when Hudson Westbrook, when he first put that song out, I didn't think I was going to be as drawn to it as I am, because I grew up my parents are still together, and I'm in a happy marriage, and like, so to write a song about divorce was like Hudson's idea, and we were going off his real life events, like with his parents, and pulling from a real place within him, and kind of just helped him write that song for himself. And uh, but come to find out, it's a powerful song, and it's fun to sing, and it's kind of out of my comfort zone. So yeah, I love doing that one.
I like it. See, you just never know what you're going to get on the answers with that. And like I said, Keeping On arrives on September 4th. And Dan, is there that you can tell us without getting yourself in trouble? I don't want you to get in trouble. What else can folks expect from you the rest of 2026 as the album comes out? And I'm sure you get to play a few shows to support it.
Man, nothing comes to mind right now. I'm hoping that I get some call today that changes that. I, I'm just kind of going with the flow.
I like it. I like it. But you do have an album on the 4th that folks can give a listen to, and then maybe they'll be like you. Maybe they'll deep dive and see some of those songs that you've written and co-written that others have recorded, and see some of the cool things that you've been able to do. And Dan, thank you for sharing some time with me and sharing your journey with me. And it's I can't wait to hear these songs when everyone else gets to hear them too.
Well, that means the world, man. Thank you so much for your interest in it, and thanks for having me on here. This was really cool.